Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it is always a pleasure to come your way, sharing these thoughts, ideas, observations, perspectives, philosophies that come from our guests, as well as from yours truly. And we come your way every Sunday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday morning at 1 a.m., Wednesday at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. We podcast at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, many other locations, including YouTube, where you can subscribe, whether it's the podcast or video cast. And we would ask that you subscribe and click notifications. So when I post a new conversation, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in. One of these days, I'm hoping maybe we can do a chat with everybody. You can Zoom in, or we'll set it up to call in one way or the other. The technology's there. We just don't have it set up yet. But who knows? Maybe one day we'll be able to incorporate your thoughts, ideas, questions, concerns. We also want to let you know that the book Choices, 5 Steps for Life is now available at Amazon.com. It is my book that I've been working on. The impetus was 22 years ago, folks. And sometimes books take that long. The universe is the one that's in control. I'm just taking the lead, so to speak, following the lead, I should say, not taking it. So if you'd like to get a copy, please go there and do so. And if you do, leave a review. I'd love to know what you think of the book. A reminder also that if you'd like to support the work we're doing financially, we have a PayPal account. It's there for your security as well as ours. And one final element here that we always talk about on this program, and that is taking time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to spend some time going within, listening to that still small voice. Today's program, similar to other programs that we have done in the very recent past, this one's going to have to do with a subject that is paramount of importance, as well as our returning guest. Dr. Emmett Miller is going to talk with us today about kindness. Man, we could use a lot of more kindness today, and I'm certainly hoping that through this program, you, the listener, as well as myself, will understand that getting from point A to point B safely, calmly, and quite honestly, happily is really the goal. Not to get at the head of the line or be first, what have you. As long as you get there, and you get there in one piece, that's what's really important. And of course, I'm talking about especially driving. California is not the only area that has problems with people who feel that they are entitled to have that position of superiority. Nobody out there on the roads is superior to anyone else. We're all equal because we're all just trying to get from one place to another. And that applies in other areas of our lives. Dr. Miller, thank you for returning to Tell Me Your Story and this conversation about kindness. It's really very kind of you to return.
Well, kind of you to invite me back.
What is, from your perspective, what is kindness? How do you define it?
I guess I would have to define it on a continuum. And one end of the continuum was very, very kind, and at the other end of the continuum is the opposite of kindness. And I think kindness, one can see when a person goes out of their way, to help somebody else. And I always think of that song, "He Ain't Heavy, He's My Brother." Just that being there for someone when they need something. And even if it means you have to take some time out of your own life, maybe you have to miss the bus to help pick up someone who's fallen off a park bench or something like that, someone you don't know at all. But you ask someone, why did they do that? Says, I never thought of not doing it. It's like the courage never, the thought of that never enters their mind to walk away.
Mm.
So, and I think that kindness is related to that concept that we call compassion, uh, which has to do with empathy, that ability to feel what another person feels, which is a very fine quality to develop. And then one step beyond that is compassion, which is to feel what they feel and to care about how they feel and to be able to truly identify with that person who's in need or that person who's suffering. And then one feels a movement within which says, you don't walk away from this. You're there to respond. I think it's something that is, most easily learned very early in childhood. If you're fortunate enough to be surrounded by people who love you, and because they love you, they're always thinking of whatever they do around you, whatever they say around you, they're always thinking, how is that going to affect you, the child? Not only how's it going to affect you today, but how's it going to affect you a year from now, or 5 years, or 20 years from now? The worst case scenario is a person who shakes their baby or slaps their kid or says, you're no good, you're never going to amount to anything. See, those are the things that are down at that other end of the scale. At the moment, well, I was really angry, and so I called him all of those names. I didn't really mean it. But those names have taken a toll. And what I've been aware of is that coming into it as a physical doctor, as an MD, and discovering that most of everything we do as MDs is treat symptoms. We don't really go to the source of most things. And that as I worked with people in mind body medicine, I found that most of our illnesses ultimately date back to an injury that we've experienced, an emotional injury that we've experienced early in our life. Um, Amazingly, how often I've found it traced to something that's happened in the first few years or the first few months, sometimes the first few days of a person's life. You don't know what you're saying. A situation occurs to me of a woman who'd come to me because she had this belief that she was ugly. She didn't want to show herself. She was embarrassed. She couldn't go out with anyone. I mean, she just was really hidden away, and she's very, very miserable about it. So I worked with her. And my primary tool during the 70s and 80s to really scope out the dimensions of the brain and to learn how the brain worked and how the two brains work, the conscious and the subconscious, and how they relate. The most powerful tool that I could use in keeping with being a doctor was hypnotherapy. And I worked with age regression analysis. So I learned to have people enter a very relaxed state. And when you're sufficiently relaxed, it becomes possible for you to look at things that were painful when they happened. But because these things are so painful, the subconscious mind says, well, come, I know how to relieve that pain. I won't let you remember it anymore. So I'll just store it here in the unconscious, which is fine. And it does a good job as your child because it keeps you from becoming psychotic or going crazy. You just kind of stash it away. But then as you grow older, it begins to show up as unwanted behaviors, ways of losing your temper when you didn't want to, of feeling anxious about things, of feeling fearful, of things, like the biggest fear people have is fear of public speaking. That means to go out and talk to 20 people is scarier than airplanes, scarier than spiders, you name it. Why should that be? There's 20 people who like you. They've showed up here because they want to hear what you have to say. What are you
Mm.
afraid of? Huh? At any
Mm.
rate, for this woman, we traced all the way back, and she was in the process of being born. And she described to me the delivery room and and her birth. And so she's delivered, and they hold her up, and her mother looks at her. This newborn baby is covered with vernix caseosa and all the fluids and everything, and the head is stretched from going through the birth canal. And the mother says, "Oh my God, she's ugly."
Hmm.
And the woman, who was, I guess, in her 40s, was experiencing some of that emotion. Says, that's terrible. I'm ugly. Oh, okay. Well, we finished, and I did the rescripting, have to desensitize that and write a new script, a new algorithm for the brain to use in the future. And she says, that was wonderful. Thank you very much. But it can't be a real memory. I said, why not? She said, because all my life, my mother's the one who told me I was beautiful. There was never a day that she didn't tell me I was beautiful several times. Huh, that's interesting. And so it couldn't have been her. Okay, we'll see. Anyway, and then she called me back later in that day. She says, I couldn't help it. I had to call my mother up and tell her what I saw. And when I did, she said, oh, Dr. Pritchard promised me he'd never tell anybody that. So here's a mother that had hidden that secret. Ever since she said that to us, she felt so guilty about it that she overcompensated and said, you're beautiful, you're wonderful. But the kid still heard the mother's voice at birth. And now they could let it go. So mother didn't mean a very kind mother. Look, she every day of her daughter's life, she got herself to say that. But that one mistake injured a person. So back to what I was saying. So if we're surrounded by people who love us and who know how to be careful of what they're saying, an infant's a delicate thing. If you grab them by the arm and fling them into the crib, you're creating trauma inside because you're saying to that child, you are meant to be thrown around. You don't have anything to say about what's being done to you, and so forth. So all of the ways, so what do we end up? We end up treating a child with tenderness. How far from that is kindness? And so when we look, starting from that end of the spectrum, and then we go up to where if a child, does something that's wrong, he makes a mistake, what do you say? You say, oh, well, look, gosh, that really didn't work out too well. Let's take a look at what happened and see, yes, can you think of another way of doing it that would have led to a better outcome? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's being kind to your child. Being less kind to say, you really screwed up there. I can't believe it. That's the third time this week you've done that. Why can't you be like Sherry May down the block? She never makes that kind of mistake. You're just a little jerk. Ah, oh, have you met my daughter? She's the fattest 8-year-old girl in the town. I mean, that's the way this father used to introduce his daughter. So
Hmm.
of course she was hyper fixated on being fat. So of course she ended up having eating disorders and so forth like that. So those are the little unkind things we can do and how we pick them up as children. And when they're done to us, they're so painful. We can't look at the pain and think about it. So we develop some way out of it. So maybe we hide what we're ashamed of because of what we've been told, or otherwise we go against it and go, I am not. I'm going to be the biggest and the baddest. And you end up with a person who's really insulting, who's constantly picking on other people, who's suspicious of other people, who's constantly defensive. And they are not very kind people to be around because they don't see you and they can't treat you gently because they're too worried about you may hurt them. And then if you go to just what just disturbs me is I look at television and I see the comedies, the situation comedies, the comedians that are on, and it's all about putting somebody else down.
Yeah.
calling them names, making them look foolish. And brilliant writers get together and figure out how to make somebody look bad, how to make the guy with the high hat slip on a banana peel and fall. Yeah, if the little old lady slips on a banana peel, well, that's too bad. You run out and help her. But when this guy wearing his high hat slips on a banana peel,
Yeah.
and you begin to get that. And politics is a good way to look at it now, where there was always a respect for
Yeah.
the person that you were running against, because you may have a different idea and you may be running for the same office, but you're not enemies. But
Yeah.
now politicians see each other as being enemies, and they call each other names, and it's, well, just pick up the newspaper and you can see how that happens.
Yeah.
Extremely unkind. And what is that doing? That's creating resistance on the other side, hurts people on the other side. It also makes enemies. And some people, if you get them really angry with you, they go out and buy a AR-15 and climb up on a roof and try to shoot off your ears. you know, maybe you shouldn't have called them what you called them. I mean, they were in the audience and they heard it. So you begin to get people who act out when they haven't had that kindness. And it's difficult, but if you're fortunate enough to have that person come into contact with someone who's kind, it could be a social worker, it could be a roommate when they go to jail, or wherever you might find a therapist who can treat you kindly. I mean, well-trained therapists know how to use kindness. It's one of the most healing things that you can do for a person, because ultimately the ultimate kindness is kindness to yourself, kindness to
Yeah.
kindness to your soul, kindness to your own self-image, that you
Yeah.
don't you don't want to ever be on your deathbed and remember that thing that you did when you were being unkind. It's to behave as if all of your thoughts were being printed out in skywriting across the sky.
Exactly.
You're that kind.
There are two quotes that come to mind as we are here talking about all of this. We're talking with Dr. Emmett Miller. drmiller.com is the website we'll be linked to here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Dr. Emmett Miller has joined us here again, and we're so grateful for that. I was mentioning two quotes. The first one is the golden rule, as we have learned it over the years: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I've modified it. I say, do unto others as if you were the others. That's the first one. But the second
Mhm.
one, they always said, no, that's not true. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, the modification to that is, but words will never hurt me as long as I don't allow them to hurt me. But we're not taught how to do that. And
Yeah.
it's not the person who says those words that hurts us. We choose. And this is a hard concept, I think, for a lot of people to grasp, is that we choose to be hurt. There are some people, you can say whatever you want to them and they don't flinch. They're not moved because they're anchored in a self-confidence, a self-assurance, a self-worth that says, I refuse to receive those words that you are speaking. And it speaks to a segment of 4 steps that I came up with to work through this kind of challenge, that if I got dragged into something, emotionally and mentally, and that is the question: what is it that you are so afraid of that makes you speak and do and be this way? Again, there's no judgment. That's the way you are. I just want to understand so that I can clear the deck and move on, and no longer allow you to live rent free up inside my head. That.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that in terms of, if we can put it in the context of protection. I don't necessarily like that word in this context, because Many people will put on excessive weight to protect themselves. And just the
Yes.
examples that you talked about earlier.
Yes.
What can we do in this process to better manage, cope, deal with the onslaught
Mhm.
that is there and say, you know what? No, I refuse to receive that.
Yes. It's really, we become injured. I mean, I'm speaking of adults and that is we become injured when we perceive that there's a difference between what, let's say, what that person is saying to us and who we feel we are, or who we believe we are, or who we want to be. And we definitely know, I don't want to identify with what's being said out there. But simply the fact is that someone you cared about or that you respected is saying something to you that's unkind, it's picked up by your subconscious mind that reads everything before the information reaches your brain. And it's one of the things that leads to so many problems for us. It's the unconscious mind gets that information, and before you can translate it, it says there's a conflict. There's a conflict inside between these two images, what this person's saying to you and what you want to believe about yourself. They're different, but you have them in your mind at the same time. So they produce cognitive dissonance, which means that in the unconscious mind, that means, oh, there's a conflict. And that conflict, again, to this early mammalian brain that lives in the pre-mammalian uh, cortex of the brain, it says, this is a conflict. This could be life or death. So we have to prepare you for life or death. And so it generates adrenaline and cortisol to a certain degree. I mean, you don't fly into a rage, but there's a shift in your mood. You may have been feeling kind of light and happy, and all of a sudden that happiness is gone. It gets wiped out by these stress hormones. It says, okay, your life is being threatened at that point. And then that is the emotion you tend to have. And maybe you feel it's threatened, and maybe you feel angry about it. Maybe you feel hurt. Maybe you feel anxious. Maybe you're disappointed and you're carrying these feelings around, and they're not doing you any good at all. So, the most important thing, the best and the fastest thing that you can do is to relax, is to say, right now, I'm in a completely safe place. There is no life or death challenge. And it's not difficult. Your body can relax. And once the body relaxes, that's your sign that your unconscious mind is relaxing too. In particular, the little amygdala, which is a little tiny nervous center in your brain, which is all where all of your protective uh, feelings come from, all of your anger, all of your life or death responses. You become calm, and then you take a look at the conflict. Well, you look back and say, what triggered those feelings that came up that I had to let go of? And
Hmm.
then you hear what that person's saying, and you're saying, okay, what could be the possible causes for that person's saying it? And first of all, is that something that's clearly true? Like if someone said to me, you're more than 6 feet tall. Yeah. Yeah, well, I am. Okay. And if that's something you're criticizing me for, I'm like, why would you consider that to be wrong?
Hmm.
What is it you're saying? What are you assuming about me? What did you hear about me? How did you misinterpret what I said to you? Which of those things is triggering you to say what you said? So I'm not the object anymore.
Right.
But now I have to begin to answer those questions. And so I might say, Well, I'm surprised that you said what you said, and I'm not sure what you meant by that. It sounded as though you were criticizing me. Is that true, or what was going on? It didn't feel good when you said what you said, and I just want to address it because, I mean, Mrs. Subtext is if I don't feel good in how you're treating me, I can hide it
Sure.
and I can stiffen up and not feel terrible about it. But, we're not going to get along too well. You're not going to be a very good friend. But when I say, look what look what you did. And the person can say, well, God, I'm really sorry. I grew up in the inner city of New York, and the inner city of New York, when young teenagers meet each other, hey, how you doing? We put up our do boom, boom, boom. We punch each other and like do a little boxing thing or punch
Yeah.
the guy in the arm or whatever. I mean, you did that. I mean, see you watch the football games after somebody scores a touchdown, his teammates come over and slap him on the helmet, and things like that. And we
Mhm.
do that. And I went to college, and I guess I still did that because one day one of one of my friends said to me, "Why do you always punch me?" Oh, I don't punch you. Just I do every time you see me, you come over and you go like that. Oh, I'd say that's how we did it when we were really close to somebody. We wouldn't do that to someone we didn't feel close to. So it's really a sign of love.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we had a conversation and it cleared us. So our friendship kept going instead of his avoiding me because he didn't want me to punch him anymore. Yeah. So it's that's
And
a
nowadays it's the knuckle bump,
yeah, that's right.
Hey, and in some cases, the two guys they'll reach out, they'll clasp hands like they're shaking hands, but
Uh-huh.
they'll pull each other in and bump shoulders gently. It's not a hard
That's
kind
right.
of thing. So it's sort of
Oh,
modified in this 21st century. But I do remember those times, and I've
yeah.
watched football games where, boy, I tell you what, is the guy going to be able to get his helmet off? Is it now jammed on his head permanently? But it is a sign of endearment, of
Yeah.
appreciation for what they accomplished. Maybe it was because of a touchdown, and those kinds of things. And in all of these sports, baseball or whatever it is, there is that physicality
Yeah.
that looks like a violent act when in fact it is that sign of endearment.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit about going back to words. If we let's say we're in a we're in a situation, in a family situation where you have someone who, and I'll just go ahead and put the example out there, who imbibes just a bit too much and then starts saying the stuff, okay? Is it enough for the one who's targeted, who it's aimed at, to say, you know what? That's the alcohol talking. Okay. And so I know that's the alcohol talking. So it doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
But is the reality, in
Hmm.
spite of the fact that they say, well, that's the alcohol talking, that it still has an impact on the target, on that person? Uh,
Hmm.
it's not enough to mentally categorize it, is it?
No, no, it's not. It's because it does affect you, and it hurts us when you're around people who disrespect you in that way, who don't show some kind of kindness. Again, we're on the spectrum. Not everybody's supposed to,
Yeah.
snowflake everybody else, but
Yeah.
there
I hear you.
there are to put up with those things is allowing yourself to be injured, allowing yourself to be abused. And it's actually in the relationship, it's creating with that person's subconscious mind and your subconscious mind, it's okay for them to abuse you or to use you as humor. use you for the sake of making fun of you. So you're being used,
Yeah.
and not, it's not a good thing. And of course, the difficulty is that to the degree that to the degree that two people are being unkind to each other, to that degree, they will not be able to open up and have an honest relationship with
Mm.
them. When people are very kind with each other, think of a new loving relationship where two people fall in love. They'll do anything for each other. They're totally kind. Here, would you like some of my ice cream? And, oh, I'll get that for you, and so there's this kindness. And along with that, comes the free, wow, this person so cares about me. They will always be kind. And therefore, I can tell them about things that have been scary for me. I can tell them things that I don't like about myself, that I want to work on. I can tell them about very sensitive feelings. I can allow for closeness and for intimacy and for deep honesty, which then leads to the relationship becoming even deeper. Whereas if you open up in that way to someone who's can't be kind, they won't know how to treat you kindly when you do that. And in fact, you will back away and say, well, that's the last time I'll tell you anything. But when we have those kinds of relationships, and they're intimate relationships when it is a primary, but with our friends and colleagues, we can have extremely close relationships with an enormous amount of kindness. And when you're kind to people, you begin to see the truth of who they are inside. And you find out, oh, this person is fantastically beautiful. You never would have realized it. And I think we've all had the experience of meeting somebody who didn't look very kind, and their face was raggedy, or their clothes were raggedy, or they were not schooled, and you say, I'm not going to like this person. And for some reason, you get to know them. Maybe you're locked in the elevator with them for a half hour, or you end up in a trench in the World War or something like that. You get to
Yeah.
know that, and you just will love that person. And so it's to be able to see people when you see them, and to know that inside of everyone there's something beautiful. You may not see it right away,
Yeah.
but there is a spark of the divine in every person. As the Christians say, it's the body of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's each person. So there's something beautiful in you. It may be how you sing, it may be how you dance, maybe how you write, maybe the stories that you tell. It's maybe what you did with your family, maybe who knows what it is. But I want to open up and say, let me see how deeply I can get to know you, so I can see the beauty that's in you. And hopefully, you will have the patience to get through some of the rough parts of me to
Mm.
see the beauty that's inside. And when
Yeah.
we see that, becomes the possibility for a truly endearing relationship. So
Yeah.
instead of having two or three people that you're close to, maybe in your life, there can be dozens. Some you're very, very close to, but there are many where you and the other person can see each other's beauty. You can work together. You can share your political opinions with them. Right now, you try that, and people call a divorce, or you're uninvited to the Thanksgiving party, or you can no longer work at the
Yeah.
newspaper. Huh? It's like we don't want to know who you are or why you're that way. We're only interested in the surface. So it's so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so important for us. And then we can get together and form groups of people who can make significant changes of the kinds of changes that we want to make. That when you look out and when you see the names being called, and you see the toughness, and people are going to push and they're going to fight and bully, those things are, well, anti-democratic and anti-Christian. Uh, Whereas when you and anti really, I mean, every major religion has the same golden rule:
Hmm.
do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or
Yeah.
even do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So make
Yeah.
sure that this is what they want too.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. We're talking with Dr. Emmett Miller. drmiller.com is the website here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Dr. Emmett Miller is our guest here on the program, returning guest, which is really exciting because we get to continue the conversation we had in our first conversation, if you will. Part two, if you want to put it that way. I want to ask you a little bit about, to continue on the same vein, in terms of um, being able to talk to others. My brother and I, we've had this conversation where it appears we're on opposite ends of the political spectrum. And when I first started talking with him on this on this line, if you will, um, I said to myself, doesn't matter where he is or where you are, he is still going to be your brother when this conversation is over. And he still is my brother. We are not estranged. But one of the things that we were able to come to in our conversation was that we agreed that we came up with three things that we both agreed needed to be fixed. We didn't necessarily agree on how,
mhm,
but at least we agreed on three things we felt needed to be fixed.
mhm.
And that was just fine. And we left it right there. And, and I still love my brother and I'm still very proud of him for what he's accomplished in his life,
Hmm.
and he's neither right nor wrong, nor I am right nor wrong. We just have different views on things.
Yeah.
When we sit down, because they say that, especially at the dinner table, you don't talk about sex, politics, or religion. I guess those are the three taboos you don't want to talk about at the dinner table.
Hmm.
However, if you can, in a manner of speaking, set down some ground rules that this is not a conversation of division, but we're trying to understand where the other person is coming from. My mother, when she read my book, Choices, she sent me a text and she, first of all, congratulated me on its being published. But she also said, I learned things about you I always wanted to know. And it seems to me that's the perspective that we need to come from, not in terms of knowing as a form of judgment,
Uh-huh.
but just knowing as, oh, okay, so that's your perspective. Interesting. All right.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
We seem to be, and in this actually does transcend politics. We seem to have lost the ability or the capacity to want to know and understand others. Is
From
your
fear.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's coming from fear.
Okay.
I'm afraid to open up and hear what you have to say because I might find out that I was wrong,
Mm.
or that there's another way of looking at it, or that I've been too rigid. When I came from a spare the rod, spoil the child
Hmm.
background as far as my father was concerned. So when my first son was born, I was pretty harsh. If he cried more than 5 minutes, I went in and spanked him, and well, well, a few years later, I began to find out what happens when you spank kids and what they're left with, even if it's hidden. It felt terrible to me, but I wouldn't want anybody to know that I did that.
Yeah.
And so where we hide from ourselves. So I've got to push you away because you may make me look at a part of myself that I don't want to look at. And I might be ashamed of how I learned that without double checking it. I assumed it was true. I mean, how can I have thought that about somebody, that I've sinned by having a negative thought about that person, and I don't want to know about that. So it's really that person's fear that pushes you away. If they weren't afraid, they wouldn't need to. In fact, always when there's a bullying, when there's an attacking, it always stems from the person's fear that's inside. Now, they may come out as the guy who beats up everybody in town and everybody respects him because he'll beat you up if you don't respect him. That's not a happy guy. That's a
Mm-mm.
very unhappy guy. And that's why he has to beat up people, because he's afraid of letting them get close to him. Because if they do, then they're going to abandon him like his mother did or like his father did, and so forth. So when you begin to find those situations coming up, if you react with this primitive mind, then that puts you into a defensive situation. So you're never going to learn the truth of this situation. So the only way to learn the truth is to be able to get to the point where you can say, even though the guy looks like a bad guy, even though it looks like he's really angry and wants to hurt me and I should be afraid, if there's no real reason to feel that way, if somebody's got a knife or something, oh, it's different, then maybe I'll shoot him instead of saying,
Mhm.
gee, why are you carrying that knife? But as long in social settings, it's rarely are you in any physical danger. So to be able to stop and relax and say, gee, why are you this way? Why is this person? Can you Sounds like you're really upset about that. Can you share with
Mhm.
me?
Yeah.
You must have had some experiences that made you think that way, and I'm curious as to what those might be. And then you begin to have a dialogue instead of a debate. So again, our culture now is turning into a culture of debating each other, and it's driving us in a very, 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 very bad direction. Um,
There's a movie my wife and I just recently watched, starring Russell Crowe. It's a fairly,
mm,
I'm not sure how new it is, might be a few years old.
mm,
But at first we started watching, and I'm going, why are we watching this? This is ridiculous. This is horrific. I don't need it. But the longer I watched it, the deeper the lesson was sort of ingrained in me. The movie was about Russell Crowe having the equivalent of a really, really bad day. There's another movie with Michael Douglas as well. He's got a buzz cut, and he's not a happy camper. Anyway, this movie with Russell Crowe has to do with road rage.
uh-huh.
And the woman honked at him because he was trying to cut her off. So the rest of the movie, he is out for vengeance. And somehow he manages to get her phone. He has her contacts. He
Oh,
ends up killing quite a number of different people that were related to her, friends or relatives, and so on and so forth. And as I'm watching the movie, number one, the first and foremost lesson was don't uh, don't honk. Always remember, everybody is just trying to get from point A to point B safely. Okay, and yes, they may have had a bad day. We've seen the videos on the internet of road rage and just the craziness that goes on. But the other thing that really struck me, because the character, kept saying to her, "This is all on you. Your brother is this, and this person is dead because of you and because of you." And I just sat there going, "No, this is all on you, pal,
yeah, right.
because you cannot control your emotions.
Yeah, yeah.
That is the one thing that we can control." I mean,
Hmm.
we've talked about this before too, that we can't control what goes on outside of us. We can only control what's going on inside of us. And that also includes, doctor, our physical health.
Hmm.
People, and I mentioned earlier about how people protect themselves by putting on extra weight, and then, of course, all of the other things you referred to. But we also do that in terms of and I've heard it put this way, that we all have the possibility of all kinds of different diseases, cancer and this and that and the other thing, right?
That's right.
You see old men and women walking around, they look like a question mark, as if they're carrying this heavy load. Um, and yet, that is still something that we can control. You are considered, if I'm not mistaken, the father of guided imagery meditation of a sort, and the mind body medicine as well.
Hmm.
I'm sure that you have also run into, and I'm throwing a lot into this question here, but I'm sure you've also done extensive study and research into this concept of the placebo effect. There was a 60 Minutes piece on it, and it was astounding how normally you don't tell the group that's getting the placebo that they're getting a placebo. But in this piece on 60 Minutes, they told the people they were getting a placebo, and it had a profound effect on their physical health.
Yes.
So is that the mind at work, our mind at work, when we recognize that I cannot control what's going on out there, but I can control my emotions. I can control my thoughts. It is possible. Is That's what we're really talking about here, isn't it?
Yes. It's how our thoughts are being controlled. And most of us don't control our thoughts. The culture that we live in has stuffed us full of ideas, of concepts, of beliefs. For instance, a person who grows up in a segregated society, they have very, very fixed beliefs about what this other racial or ethnic group is and what they are not and what they are fundamentally. And they can continue to abuse people. I mean, it's kind of extreme case, and it
Mhm.
just never occurs to them. They used to, of course, the preachers in the South, the ministers, the reverends, they supported slavery, and they supported Jim Crow, and they didn't feel there was anything wrong with that. They felt that, taking these people, they were savages, and we're bringing them in from the wilds of Africa, and we're letting them work on our cotton fields, and we're giving them a chance to learn about Jesus and be saved. So
Mhm.
this is slavery is a good thing, and they, truly believe that. So that's extreme, but many of us have so many beliefs about ourselves, and we're not taught the power of our beliefs, the power of our thinking. And 99% of our thoughts we do not choose. They come from the unconscious part of our mind, unconscious. We have no control over them. It's like when you're trying to go to sleep and it's hard to get to sleep. Your mind thinks about this, thinks about the other thing. Or if you sit down and maybe you have to do this paperwork and you look at it and this thought comes in, another thought comes in, you're just bombarded but with these thoughts, and you notice it in those circumstances, but that's going on all day, every day. We're just
Mhm.
following one thought after another, unless we say, I'm going to control my thinking for a while. Now, with a placebo, it's not you're not controlling your thinking, but you're being guided or tricked or seduced into believing, we just got this pill, it's in from some doctors in Vienna. It works beautifully. You'll just take this, once a day, and gradually you will notice that your stomach starts to feel better. And then you're going to notice that your appetite comes back, but you're really just going to want to eat healthy food. So take this pill and have that happen. Well, this is hypnosis. And we are all in and out of hypnosis many, many, many times throughout the day, but we've never learned that it's true. Hypnosis got a bad reputation because it was used to control people, first on the stage, so you can make them cackle like a rooster or whatever. Right. And And then, Edward Bernays came along and invented propaganda and really showed how you can use the media to hypnotize a person. And it's not what you think, yeah, unless you've really learned how it goes. But that a kind doctor that you have faith in that gives you a pill and it confirms to you that it's going to work and tells you how it's going to work is really writing a script for your mind. Well, what I discovered is people can write their own scripts if you teach them how. And you always, among other things, you treat yourself with kindness. When I'm working with a patient that I want to get well, I never use the word pain. I never use hurt or stab or stick or rotten or disgusting because those always create tension within. But I always say, if I'm testing something, is that comfortable? Is that comfortable? Is it comfortable when I do this? Now, is it more comfortable like this or more comfortable? Instead of, does it hurt more like this or hurt more like this? And so by respecting a person, and let's say you're inducing hypnosis, and let's say I'm going to teach arm levitation. So I'm had the person envisioning a balloon lifting their arm, and as I speak, the balloon lifts higher and higher. And now your arm is all the way up and it's reaching as though it's reaching something on a very high shelf, and your arm is locking straight. And now you can't bend your arm. And that happens when a person is accepting your suggestions in hypnosis. But I may be saying, okay, your arm is getting lighter and lighter and lighter, but their arm doesn't move at all. And I say, however, you can also feel its heaviness that's keeping it down on that arm of the chair. So even if you try to lift it, it's going to feel really heavy. So I never say, hey, you're doing the wrong thing or your arm's not levitating the way it's supposed to. I say, oh, okay. That is, whatever happens is absolutely fine. Big secret. Everything is happening exactly the way it's supposed to happen. You are exactly where you're supposed to be at this moment in time. There's nothing wrong. Your brother has the beliefs that he has. That's exactly right for him at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And you are precisely the person you're supposed to be. You're the only person that you can be at this moment in time because there's nobody else living inside of your body. There's just you,
Yeah.
and you are the only you there is. So it must be right.
Yeah.
And you're
That's reminding
right.
me of the lines from the piece going back. I think it was to the early or mid 70s, and we use it regularly on this program. Desiderata. You are
Yeah.
a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, the universe is unfolding, and we're part of that, is unfolding as
As
it
it
should.
should.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
An-
And
Another piece of, you and I
yeah,
are going to duet one of these days. We've already
no,
mentioned in our
no.
two programs, two different pieces of music. But that is so profound. And yet I
Yes.
would venture that most people, they liked the music that was playing. They liked the voice. The guy that did that, the original, was wonderful in that respect. But the words, and this goes to another element we'll talk about real quickly here. Well, we'll go as long
Mm,
as we can. Words have power, and
yes.
it sounds to me like you discovered that a long time ago,
Yes.
especially in communicating with your patients.
Yes. Yes. And so I am who I'm supposed to. Everyone is being exactly who they should be. And now when we come into conversation, what's the argument? You can't be anybody other than who you are. You're not here to entertain me. I'm not here, to make your life work. I'm here to be who I am. And now we can have a conversation. Now we can meet. Now we can develop something positive. Or if you're my patient or my client, we can begin to get something to happen that's in ourselves. And So if we can take that, and those, oh, how many times, oh, what an idiot, and I can't believe I did that. No, you did it. And there
Yeah.
was a very good reason why that happened. If you spend your time beating up on yourself, you're not going to understand why that happened. And therefore, you won't be able to stop it from happening next time.
Yeah.
So the only way that you can be successful is to assume that you have everything that you need. You're in exactly the place that you should be. And as time goes on, you will understand things so much better. Then you say, oh, I shouldn't be here. And I wish I had this. And I wish I was that. And I wish the other. Well, then what you're doing is you're saying to yourself, you're inadequate, you're inappropriate, you're helpless, you're under the control of the outside world. And you develop what psychologists call learned helplessness. And then you cannot grow, you cannot see beyond it until ultimately to the wisest you can be is to totally accept yourself as you are,
Mm.
to be kind to yourself.
Another
And
word I've used or phrase is victimhood.
yes, yes, it is. And oh boy, now we talk about politics again. Oh, what they're doing to me. Oh, what the conspiracy is doing to me. Oh, what that person, it's like, yeah.
I've often said to people during these past 9 years, and especially the last few, talking about the that one candidate we both are certainly alluding to, and that is, I tell them, I said, he did this to himself. They said, what are you talking about? I said, because he chose to run 9 years ago. He
Hmm.
put himself, shall we say, in the
Uh-huh.
crosshairs. No pun
Yeah.
intended here. Okay, folks?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he put himself there just like Dr. Emmett Miller has put himself here in my crosshairs, and vice versa. I have put myself in his crosshairs as we continue talking here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Dr. Emmett Miller is my very special guest, having a great conversation. I have noticed something too, interestingly enough, Doctor, is that as of our conversation, the day before this conversation, I did 3 interviews over the space of, I would say, 4 hours. And I noticed that my tone changed as I went from one interview to the next. And the tone actually came down a little bit.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
I'm an excited person, okay? But I also noticed too that my voice started to sound a little bit hoarse to a degree. It didn't hurt or anything. It just, that's, you talk for 3 hours, 4 hours, and that's what happens. But I'm wondering about the aspect of tone and being aware of one's tone, how we are
Yes.
delivering those words that have power.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
that, isn't there? This, all of this has to do with being conscious, being consciously aware in the moment. But our minds kind of want to take us either to the past or the future, don't they? And
Yeah.
it makes it challenging to stay in the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah. They shoot off to the past and to the future because they're busy making comparisons as though you don't want to be wrong. So you have to figure it out, and you have to figure it out by looking at this. And it's being driven by anxiety. Whereas when a person's completely comfortable and how I speak to someone and the tone of my voice will have a lot to do with how comfortable that person is. And if
Yeah.
I'm speaking like this, or if I'm speaking that way, and as I say, as I'm practicing medicine, and certainly when I'm doing my coaching or mentoring or working in therapy, um, the point is for people to feel completely comfortable as they are. So I don't want my voice to be challenging them. The sound of the voice, the rhythm of the voice, the kinds of words that are chosen, the kind of words that will evoke images, like a beautiful pink sunset. Yeah, you have an image, or a bright red rose, or the smell of fresh lavender.
or the sound and the vision of waterfalls cascading down, as
Yes.
those who are watching YouTube see behind Dr. Emmett, just that very picture, which is actually quite serene
Uh-huh.
and captivating as well. I mean, I could sit on that little hill to the right as I
Yes.
sit and just sit there and listen all day to that.
Uh-huh.
Arizona, Sedona, Arizona has a creek that runs through it, and it's called Oak Creek. And my present wife and I took a little trip up there one day, and I had a microphone and a mini disc recorder.
Uh-huh.
I decided that I was going to take my shoes off. I was wearing shorts that day, so I got into the creek. I wanted to record the sound of the creek. And then once, as I was walking through, I kind of stumbled a little and I dropped the microphone into the water. Now, first of all, it still works, which is amazing. But the sound I heard, because I was wearing headphones as I'm monitoring, it's like, oh, the brook under the water sounds really cool too. So we need to find these wonderful
Yeah.
elements to incorporate into our lives and help us to stay present, stay in the moment. By the way, here in Santa Barbara, there's a gentleman who I've had on this program, and we run a little vignette I created for him. He refers to himself as the nowist, referring to staying in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I've got to get him back on the program to talk more about that, especially as we are heading towards the end of 2024, heading for 2025. And it's just, but it's so remarkable when you can do that. And in sports, they call it being in the zone.
Zone. That's
Yeah.
right.
They call it being in the zone. Dr. Emmett Miller is my guest. drmiller.com is the website, and you are listening to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Dr. Emmett, you know as well as I do, I'm going to have you back, and we're going to talk about some other things as well, especially with your vast knowledge and experience. I would love to continue these conversations on a regular basis, and I just thank you for giving us so much time each time to share with our listeners and viewers.
My pleasure. Now, I was thinking we might do a little imagery today, perhaps based on some of what we're talking about.
I'm going to turn the floor over to you for a duration and let you do just that for our listeners and viewers.
And I'm thinking that what my belief is that we live in a world in which there are many, many challenges right now. There are many, many threats. There are many, many dangers, but it's always been there. There's always been a bunch of wars going on. There's always been refugees and starvations and rapes and terrible things being done. It's always been that way. But nowadays we have newspapers and we have video, and we have so many different ways that we can see what's going on. If we're wise enough to choose those media that are bringing us the truth, we actually have the ability now, because of where we've advanced technologically, that if we use our minds correctly, we have an opportunity to change a world, to change the world in a way that it's never been possible before. It's almost as though we can finally live down the curse of Cain and solve the problem. And that in order to do it, it's important for each one of us to become aware that it's not an accident that you're here, that you have a reason to be here. There's something beautiful inside you that can contribute to what it is that we all want, that we all really do want that same thing. And that which is within you may not be visible right now. It's kind of like an acorn doesn't look much like an oak tree, but there's an oak tree hidden inside of that acorn. and you crack it open, you won't find it, but it's there. And so it needs to be nurtured. So what can we do to nurture who we are and become a little more aware of who we are at that deepest level? So I'd like to invite you, we do it in using imagery and using relaxation, because that allows us to get away from the negative thinking and the resistance to discovering the beauty and the love and the power that's inside each of us. So allow your body to be in a comfortable position, unless you're driving a car, in which you can keep your eyes open, please, and keep your vision where it needs to be. If you're doing something else and you can't stop right now, make sure you keep doing it safely. But if you have the ability, allow yourself to sit or rest in a comfortable position and become aware of the fact that at this moment in time, there's no other place that you need to go. There's nothing else that you need to do. There's no problem you have to solve. There's no emergency, and therefore you don't need to have any stress. And you can give yourself permission to let go. Let your eyes focus on a single immovable point out in front of you, a point on the ceiling or the wall opposite you. Then take a deep breath in, and as you breathe that breath out, let it be a feeling of letting go. And let your eyelids close. And imagine you can see the word relax, as though it's written there on the back of your forehead. Let your eyes gently roll upward behind your closed eyelids. Imagine you can see relax. To relax is to let go of all unnecessary tension in your body, your mind, and your emotions. Right now. Imagine you're standing beneath a warm shower of gentle relaxation. And you feel it flowing through your scalp, relaxing all the muscles there. Relaxation flowing down through all the muscles of your face, relaxing your jaw muscles, flowing down into your neck and your shoulders, down through your arms and your wrists and your hands, all the way down to the very tips of your fingers. And when you feel that relaxation reach the tips of your fingers, take another deep breath in. And this time, as you let it out, think to yourself the words, "It breathes me. It breathes me." And let yourself sink down deeply into that quiet space after you've breathed out and before the next breath begins itself. And as you let the air breathe you, feel your chest and your abdomen rise and fall, relaxing all the internal organs there. A peaceful feeling of relaxation flowing through your pelvis, your legs, your feet, all the way down to the very tips of your toes. More and more relaxed with each breath. Good. Now imagine yourself standing on a high mountain, overlooking a vast ocean. And as you gaze out at the beautiful horizon in the distance, you can see the world spread out before you. A tapestry of blues and greens, of light and shadow. The beach, the waves coming into the beach. The color of the sea, the clouds that float by, pure white fluffy clouds. The air is crisp and clean. And if any unnecessary thoughts or distractions come along, with your next breath out, breathe the unnecessary thought out through your nose. And with your next breath in, breathe in that fresh, clear air and let it flow through your mind and through your body, relaxing you even more. Good. And as you stand on this mountaintop, you feel a sense of victory. You climb this hill, and you begin to let your mind drift back to some time in the past when you set your mind to a difficult task and you accomplished it in spite of the obstacles. Whatever comes to you, could be winning the spelling bee, or making a basket, or winning a race, or getting promoted in school, or graduating, or something you did in your sport or your occupation. Someday when you were really victorious because you put your mind to it and you won that success, be there now. If a memory doesn't come to you, just make one up. Feel yourself being victorious. Breathe a deep breath into that feeling of victory and know where you feel it in your body. And know deep within that you have the ability to be successful in what you really want to be successful at when you put your mind and your attention and your intention toward it. That's it. And here, atop this hill, you look out over the ocean and you see some dark clouds gathering on the horizon. You take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, it reminds you of some of the challenges that we all face in our world. Climate change, pollution, conflict at home and abroad, and others. Clouds swirling and turning in the distance. But you choose to remain relaxed because you're in a safe place right now, and because any anxiety or tension would only be disastrous or bring distractions to you. So you breathe anxiety and tension out with each breath out. And you simply remain aware of some of those challenges out there, but with a sense of calm detachment. Realizing that it's a higher part of your mind that needs to deal with these challenges. These are not physical challenges that require stress, but calm detachment as you let the air breathe you and sink down into that pause after you breathe out and feel that spark of life that starts the next breath in. A golden glow that flows into your chest and then throughout the rest of your body. Imagine this is the light of wisdom and inspiration and love. Your unlimited capacity for creative problem solving. And you feel a deep connection to all those that you love and to all of humanity. Feel this light we all share as it grows stronger, radiating out from your heart center. With each breath, that golden glow expands until it surrounds your entire body with a protective bubble. And from within this space of clarity and calm, you notice you are beginning to look at those challenges facing us with new eyes, with a feeling of inspiration within. You're beginning to notice the dark clouds starting to shift and change. Where there were once only obstacles, you now begin to perceive possibilities. Stumbling blocks become stepping stones. Along with the climate changes, you're beginning to reimagine opportunities for innovation and sustainable living. Conflicts are transforming into chances for deeper understanding, cooperation, and creativity. Gradually, your perspective is shifting and you're feeling a surge of inspiration and purpose within. Follow it deeper within, deeper into the center of your being, your essence, the heart and soul of you. You might think of it as your spirit or your core. At that deepest place within you, become aware of what really has meaning and value to you in your life. Your deepest love. At this deepest place within, become aware of what really has meaning and value to you. What do you care about at the deepest level? What do you respect and have reverence for? Now, imagine that you didn't come here by accident. You have a purpose. You have a personal purpose or mission. Allow yourself to become aware of it now. Your personal purpose. Become aware of it at the feeling level and breathe that golden light energy into it and feel it grow stronger. Good. You're beginning to realize at a deep level that you have unique gifts to offer in this extraordinary time of transformation. Perhaps it's your compassion, your creativity, your indomitable will, ability to connect with people, or whatever gift that you bring to the community and the world around you. Imagine now that your golden light is connecting you with a fiber of light to others around you, in your community and around the world. Thousands, millions of points of light joining together, forming a network of hope and positive change. Feel the strength and the power of this global community, all working toward a brighter future. Now, feel it. Good. And any time that you need to recall this power within you, allow yourself to be in touch with this superpower by remembering this place within, remembering that pause after you breathe out and before you breathe in again. Feel that little spark that starts each new breath, and then feel yourself touching the deeper place within you. Who are you? What is your purpose in being here? What gifts do you bring? Now let yourself float ahead into the future and take a moment to reflect on one specific action you can take, no matter how small, to contribute to this positive change. Maybe showing caring or kindness or love or support, or just a kind hello, a smile, whatever it may be, big or small. Imagine yourself taking that action, feeling confident and empowered. And let yourself feel that same feeling of victory and success that you felt before. Feel it now, because you're being successful. That's it. And as you prepare to return to your day, know that this sense of calm, clarity, and purpose is always available to you, and you can return to this inner sanctuary whenever you need to recharge and refocus. Slowly bring your awareness back to your physical surroundings. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Take a deep breath in, and as you let it out, allow your eyes to open. Let your focus be very soft. Just enjoy the colors that meet your eyes and marvel at the miracle of vision, the miracle of hearing, and the miracle that you carry within you the knowledge that you are part of something greater, a global movement toward healing and unity. In the face of challenge, you have the power to create positive change, starting right here, right now, with your clear vision in this 2020 decade.
Good. Dr. Emmett Miller, has just shared with us a very special message and meditation. And I hope that you will make it a point to go to the podcast or video casts that we have mentioned on SoundCloud and YouTube to listen again as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, along with Dr. Emmett Miller. drmiller.com is the website. And Dr. Miller, I cannot thank you enough for sharing with us that meditation, as well as the work that you are doing, that we get together every so often here. And I'm hoping that we do this on a regular basis to help folks to, from my perspective, detach from what some might call the chaos out there to the clarity in here. And so thank you again for being with us here on the program.
Yes, it's great to be here.
And I thank you folks for being with us here on Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, as we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and then Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com, with the podcasts at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher. We're also on YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will. Subscribe, please, and click notifications. So when I post a new conversation, well, of course, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in. We let you know that Choices, 5 Steps for Life is now available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle, with Audible coming soon. And it's available at Amazon.com. Hope you'll get a copy. Leave a review if you would when you do get a copy. And then we could also use your financial help, support. If you'd like to be a part of the work that we're doing, especially energetically through that contribution, and even without, we'll take energetic support as well. We have a PayPal account that is there for your security as well as ours. And please take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place, and to listen to that still small voice. And that still small voice, Dr. Emmett Miller, is telling me that should be the conversation for our next get-together.
And a reminder.
Yes, indeed.
To remind, if you come to my website, that's drmiller.com, drmiller.com/choice. And there is a download that's there, which is somewhat similar to the relaxation we did today, that I think you'll really enjoy. So that's drmiller.com/choice.
And that will be the website and the link that we will be linked to, so people can go straight there.
Great.
All right. And thank you so much for making that available. And I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to law. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy, because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.